Hi, I'm James Montemagno, Principal Program Manager for all mobile developer tools here at Microsoft. And I am absolutely ridiculously excited to show you how you can get started with the Xamarin Live Player and Visual Studio to rapidly iterate on your mobile applications with nothing more than an iOS or Android device. It's awesome, and I can't wait to show you how to get started. Now first, let me tell you a little bit about Xamarin and our approach to mobile development. We're all about creating native applications, enabling you to build out a shared C# backend, all your models, view models, RESTful service calls, Azure integrations, and create a great native user interface for each platform. Now we also have a way of sharing more code with our Xamarin Forms cross-platform user interface library. This enables you to create one single XAML codebase that renders natively on each platform, enabling you to share some of your backend code and your user interface code to create native applications. Now, no matter how you're developing with Xamarin, the Xamarin Live Player can help. And we're going to enable you to get started faster than ever. And there's a few things that we're doing. First and foremost, we're improving the installation process. We've reduced our installation size by more than 50%. And with the Xamarin Live Player, you can actually uncheck all those dependencies to get started really quick and install Visual Studio with Xamarin in under 5 minutes. Now, not only do we make getting started and installing the product easier, we also made the first run experience even better. We have great cross-platform templates, Android, iOS, and even tvOS. And with the Xamarin Live Player, you don't even need to compile your code to get it running on a device. And finally, we're always improving our debug and build cycles, not only with the Xamarin Live Player, but even during that full installation and compilation step every bit along the way. But let's talk about the Xamarin Live Player, enabling you to continuously deploy and debug and iterate on your applications, again, with nothing more than an iOS or Android device, because that's where we'll interpret all of your source code and have a real debugger running on the device. And here's how it works. Simply install Visual Studio, create a new Xamarin application, write some code, download the Xamarin Live Player from the App Store, and pair it with Visual Studio over your local Wi-Fi, and your app is running on the device. That's it. 3 easy steps to get started building and deploying applications for iOS and Android from Visual Studio. In fact, let me just show you how easy it is to get started with the Xamarin Live Player with Visual Studio 2017. Here I am inside of Visual Studio 2017, and I'm actually screen mirroring my Android device to show the Xamarin Live Player. Now, we'll first want to enable the Xamarin Live Player by going to Tools, Options, and under Xamarin in the bottom, we'll see Other, and that's where Enable Xamarin Live Player is at. Once you have enabled it, you'll have the Live Player functionality right inside of Visual Studio. The first thing I want to do is download the actual Xamarin Live Player from the App Store, and that's what I've done on both my Android and iOS device. Then we can pair it over local Wi-Fi by going to Tools, Xamarin Live Player, Manage Devices. Simply scan this QR code, and over your local Wi-Fi, your iOS or Android device will be paired and ready to deploy. Now I've created a simple Xamarin Forms application. I have a few different pages in here with a few elements. Here I have a label that says Welcome to Xamarin Forms and a button click handler that actually has a breakpoint set up so I can enable some functionality. So now inside of my dropdown, we'll see the name of the device with player at the end. And I'll simply tap on that and hit debug. What this will do is submit all of the files over Wi-Fi to my device, and it'll be interpreted right on the device with a live debugger right in there. So here we go. I have Welcome to Xamarin Forms and a button that says click. So let's click it. Since I'm in a real live debug session, I can actually hit those breakpoints in the code. So there's the breakpoint, I can hover over the actual variable, I can step over it, and now we can see test equals 2. I can continue on, use my application as I would expect, or hit stop. Now what's great here is that we can also do this with iOS. So let me show you my iOS device that I have screen mirrored right here. Now, just like my Android application and device, I've paired it to Visual Studio. So here we can see my iPhone Player 2 has already been paired over local Wi-Fi. When I set the iOS device as my startup project, we'll be able to see that player in the dropdown. So we'll want to make sure that we select it. And simply again, hit debug. What's great here is over the local Wi-Fi, everything is submitted, and guess what? I hit click, I hit that same exact breakpoint, but now on my iOS device. We can continue on and continue developing our application. And while debugging my application is great, what I really like is rapidly iterating on the user interface. So what I can do is actually live run any current view in my application and source code in the code behind. So here is a nice little banner that says, let me live run this view. Since I have my player selected and I hit live run, it'll automatically be deployed onto my device. Now what's great is on any page, I can simply start modifying the user interface. So here, let me just add a few more labels over the local Wi-Fi, boom, it just updates. If I come in and I want this to be light gray, for instance, I simply add it. Light gray, there we go. It will redeploy the source code and reinterpret it right on the device. So I can modify anything here, but I can also modify the code behind. So let's actually add in a little display alert. So there we go. Now, even though I'm accessing the code behind, it's still redeploying and reinterpreting the source code. So when I click on that button, it's gone ahead and actually redeployed that code, and I can hit OK. Now, what I really love about the Xamarin Live Player is that I can not only modify a single view, but I can jump around to any view in my application. Here are some tabs, and I can simply tap on the tabs, or I can come into my list view. It automatically knows my context. Whatever I'm currently looking at, I can come in, modify the code, or just simply view it in real time. It makes me super productive when I'm developing Xamarin applications and need to modify my user interface and my code behind. You can grab and download the Xamarin Live Player and get started right now today in both Visual Studio 15.4 and 15.5. So I just showed you how to get started with the Xamarin Live Player today for both iOS and Android with Visual Studio 2017. If you need more resources, just head over to visualstudio.com. You'll install Xamarin as part of the Visual Studio installation, and you can find more about the Xamarin Live Player at xamarin.com/live. What's great is I have tons of great content, not only on Channel 9 with the Xamarin Show, but on my blog and on Twitter. So feel free to follow me and ask me any questions that you may have. Thank you so much, and have a great time using the Xamarin Live Player to develop your iOS and Android applications, all in C# with Visual Studio and Xamarin.